the one that got away, the missed job opportunity, the untapped potential of the skills within you. Whenever we desire something, we're often stopped, paralyzed by this force stopping us from taking action, from pursuing that stranger, taking on that new opportunity of starting a business, or maybe just doing something that you've never done before. This is our fear within us. The most common question I get asked online is, Joe, does your whole family have red hair? But the second most common question I get asked is, Joe, how do you build your self-confidence? And the answer to that very important question is in this book right here by David Goggins. David Goggins wrote this book, Never Finish. Now, for those of you who don't know Goggins is a big influencer, ex-Navy SEAL, big online about pushing yourself to be better and better each day. I've been following him for about 4 years, and it's definitely had a positive impact on my life. He says we all have two lives, the life we live and the untapped life within us. And between these two is this ultimate crazy thing called our brain callus. And the trick to growing your self-confidence is strengthening your brain callus. This is actually a life-changing insight. This book dramatically changed the way I approach life, conquer new fears, and create what I would call a successful life and a life that I enjoy. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 3 key insights from that book that dramatically helped me grow my self-confidence, and I hope they can do the same for you. Let's get started with point number 1, know thy enemy. So the first question we have to ask is, what is a brain callus? Well, your brain callus is how your mind and body react when it encounters resistance. Now, resistance works against us from pursuing the thing we actively want to do. It essentially stops us from pursuing any action that might make us feel uncomfortable or that we think will make us feel uncomfortable. This is resistance. So whenever we try to pursue these actions, we have to go up this hill of resistance that's stopping us from making progress. There's this really good quote in David Goggins' book that says, you have to build calluses on your brain like how you build calluses on your hand. Callus your mind through attacking that which makes you uncomfortable. Now, I've heard this resistance a million times from friends and family and people you encounter with, and it goes, I can't do that. I've never done that before. Or I can't do that. Imagine if this happens. What if this happens? And it goes bad. The most important thing is to identify the enemy and identify that this is resistance, and this is just a natural part of being a human being. What happens though that creates a really bad cycle, which we're going to write down right here, is resistance is what happens because of fear. So fear powers resistance. And when we achieve that resistance and we don't do the thing, we're made comfortable because we were never made uncomfortable, which is a bad type of positive reinforcement. And then what ends up happening, because we positive reinforced it, well, now the fear becomes larger. Because last time I was fearful, I didn't do anything and I was made comfortable. So now your fear is hypothetically larger, which leads to stronger resistance, stronger fear. And this is just over and over a really bad cycle. What you end up seeing what happens is your fear to maybe approach a new stranger or start your own business at the beginning was only this large. But since you didn't take action, that fear became greater and greater and greater, and it was actually never that large in the first place. Goggins says, I thought I was solving a problem, but a matter of fact, I was creating larger problems by taking the path of least resistance. This is this terrible circle, resistance fear circle that we're talking about. So I know this might be tough to hear, but in essence, fear and the thing we're fearful of is a good indication that at that moment, that is the most important thing you should be doing with your time. So if you're scared to tell someone about your dreams because of how they might take it and that you want to start your own business and grow something special for you, the first part of actualizing it is telling someone your dreams and sharing that with them. If it's pursuing that stranger that you've just been dying to talk to, the most important thing is for you to pursue that stranger. So now we know our enemy and what we're supposed to do. Now we got to talk about element number 2, strengthening your brain callus. How do you actually go and do that thing? Now, for some background, the phrasing around brain callus is the same type of calluses that you get when you go to the gym for the first time and you get like calluses on your hand, or you play a new instrument or get a new pair of shoes, whatever, and you build those calluses. It's the first time you're doing something is often when it's the most irritating, and it takes time for your body to react and your skin to react to make that action easier next time you do it. And our brain works the same way. So we got to understand how our brain works to strengthen our brain callus. Now, there are 2 scientific backed ways to strengthen your brain callus. And these were both published by doctors and research labs that we're going to talk about in just a second. I won't claim to be a doctor for any of these. Trust me, not my area of expertise, but I can read online, and here's a couple things that I found that I put in place that really helped me. Number one is the 3-2-1 go technique, and number two is incremental exposure. The 3-2-1 go technique and incremental exposure principles. Now, before we do that, I want you to be aware of one major obstacle that most people find themselves wasting so much time in before they conquer that which they're afraid of. And I'm going to read off something verbatim here from Chris Williamson. Now, Chris is a big influencer, great public speaker. I highly recommend you check out his work, but he has a quote like this, talking about how we can get caught in this trap. And it says, preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a list for the thing is not doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who've done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about all the attention you'll receive once you've done the thing isn't doing the thing. The only thing that's doing the thing is doing the thing. And it talks about these fears and how we all spend so much time planning on what it would be like for all the obstacles in the way. And we spend so much time making a plan where, matter of fact, we just have to 3-2-1 go, which brings us on to our first method. The 3-2-1 go technique has been documented in thousands of scientific research papers in different universities around the country, but it is most famous from the National Center of Biotech Information. The link is down in the description below. To understand the technique, you first have to understand how your body reacts when you encounter this thing called fear. Your muscles tighten up, your heart rate accelerates, your palms get sweaty, and most importantly, you get this fluid flush of adrenaline flowing through your system that almost paralyzes you into this fight or flight state. So we're frozen here waiting to make a decision. And most people get stuck in this paralyzed state just because of a natural human function of how we react when we're fearful of things. So what we need to do is recenter our focus from this paralyzed state to the part of our brain that makes decisions, which is the prefrontal cortex. Now, how we reassign our brain to focus on our prefrontal cortex is this thing called the 3-2-1 go technique. So next time you find yourself in this fearful, paralyzed state, I want you to do a couple steps that we're going to talk about right here. The first one is identify that you're in that state. And that's where your brain is focusing in the medulla part of your brain. Then say 3, 2, 1, go. And this recenters your focus to the decision-making part of your brain. Now keep in mind, you still have all that adrenaline in your system. So when you say go, I need you to take the first step forward of pursuing that action and let your momentum take you from there. So if it's going to talk to that stranger, that is one step forward for saying hi, and then whatever comes after that, that's your first action. If you're in a group and it's who wants to volunteer first, it's 3, 2, 1, go. All volunteer first. Real quick, I'll do it. And that momentum will take you from there. Method 2 for strengthening your brain callus is my favorite one, and it's called incremental exposure. Incremental exposure was best studied by the American Psychological Association in 2003. That link is also in the description, and it's the way I try to conquer that which I want to grow in long term. So let's talk about those fears. The study showed us something fairly obvious, but we often get mixed up a little bit when we're in this fearful state. And so what we think about is, I really want to start my own business venture. And you think about the big giant step of starting your own business venture. Or you really want to be a great public speaker. Well, imagine you want to be a great public speaker. The first place to start is not a TED Talk, is not speaking in front of your whole university. That is crazy to go from 0 to the highest one right away. But that jump is what makes us not want to pursue that action, because that's the state we're fearful of. Incremental exposure is to expose yourself routinely to that which you're afraid of, that which you're fearful of, at a smaller state. So if you're scared of talking to new people, your first person you talk to should not be the most important person in the room that you've been dying to talk to for months. It should be something simple, like saying good morning to your coworker when they walk in the door, or maybe asking the person at the gym, hey, what time does this gym close? Or the coffee barista, hey, what's the most common things here? I've never been here before. And maybe the answer to that question isn't the most important thing, but what you're gonna find is set a target for yourself. And I set 20 to 30 openings a day. So my goal when I was no good at this is to start or ask 20 to 30 questions to different strangers. And it sounds like a lot, but once you do the first one of, hey, do you have the time? Hey, do you know what time they close? Things like this, you'll find find that when you're in that next level of the thing that you would have been fearful of, maybe like speaking in a meeting, it comes out much more easily because you've accustomed yourself to doing this thing incrementally over time, hence the term incremental exposure. Goggins' book has an incredible quote about this. It says, "We all need small sparks, small accomplishments in our lives to fuel the big ones. Think of your small accomplishments as kindling. When you want a bonfire, you don't start by lighting a big log. You collect the small piles of hay or dry grass. You light it, and then you add small sticks, and then bigger sticks. And then before you feed the log and it starts to grow and it's large, that's when you put the whole tree stump in. It's the small sparks that cause a small fire, and the small fire that burns to an incredible heat that can burn the whole forest down." And if you know Goggins, that's so aligned with his personality. It's doing the things that you want to do at their max level, but doing them every day routinely that gets you to this strong brain callous state. Key insight number 3 for growing your confidence is knowing your why. Now, David Goggins says this is the most important part of his book. Finding your why is just as important, if not more important, than taking the action, because sometimes it's going to be really difficult to take that action. And if you have a strong why behind you, then that can push you in the times when your discipline might be a little weak. Goggins says, and I'll quote this, "My greatest life fear is that one day, if I were to be judged by someone or something, by some greater power, I might stand before them and realize I had fallen short, failing to accomplish what was meant for me." So we all have our fears. That's David Goggins' fear. Fear of not living up to his fullest potential. And since I'm in an oversharing mood, I'll share my big fear, my big why. Is there's often been times in my life that I've been put in a situation by choice of not my own, forceful choices in environments where I had to take action and I was too weak to perform that action. I was too weak to stand up for myself. I was too weak to prove myself or go out on my own terms or be able to stand on my own back, because at the end of the day, the only person who's going to have your back truly 100% is yourself. And I'm fearful of being in that state again. So I spent all this time trying to make a person that I will never be in that state again. I choose to expose myself to danger, which I'm fearful of. So when those moments come, I can go, hey, I've prepared for this. I know how to handle this. And I build that brain callous, build that strong emotion of self-belief, and I take it head on and really make something special happen out of it. So it's really important to find your why. If you need help doing this, we have a video on the channel, which I talk through Saatchi Toyoda's 5 why analysis. Now, Saatchi was actually the founder of Toyota in the 1930s, and the 5 why analysis is a way to answer life's most thought-provoking questions. It's probably one of my favorite videos on the channel. So if you're interested in tackling that question next, that's where I recommend you start. That link is down in the description below. But if I were going to take 3 main points away from David Goggins' books, it would be this. First, identify thy enemy. Thy enemy is resistance, and understand that resistance is a part of our human bodily functions. It's what happens when we're fearful or something. Number 2 is to then attack that thing which we're fearful of by either using the 3-2-1-go technique or the incremental exposure technique. And what we're going to find is we become used seeking those things that make us stronger, and the person you become in a year, you wouldn't even recognize. Trust me, it is incredibly, incredibly powerful to attack the things you're fearful of. Number 3 is to figure out what your why is, because sometimes it's going to be difficult to go do that. And if you have a strong why, you can take those things on head on. I hope you found value out of this video, friends. I like having you here. Go ahead and comment in the description below which principle you think would work better for you, the 3-2-1-go technique or incremental exposure. Which one's more natural and which one do you think you do yourself? I like the thought-provoking conversations down below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We release videos like this every Monday. My name is Joe Zeplin. Welcome to the Startup Squad. As all things small business, start small, start today. See you in the next video.